dog squads and bomb disposal squads will sanitize the venue in advance. All offices around it will be shut down 5 hours ahead of the swearing-in ceremony, slated for 6 p.m. This means that all offices will be shut by 1 p.m. around the Rashtrapati Bhavan. Snipers, including NSG, sharpshooters with telescopic guns, will be deployed on top of all high-rise buildings around the area. Traffic will be diverted or stopped on the day to avoid chaos. Interestingly, the Indian Air Force will put in place a defense system to secure the skies, including air surveillance. Indian Air Force will have helicopters monitoring the periphery around the Rashtrapati Bhavan. The security unit of Delhi Police and the Prime Minister's security unit have drawn up a multi-layered security plan to provide ground-to-air security. Delhi Police will be in charge of the security of the hotels where the dignitaries, including from Pakistan and Sri Lanka, will be staying, as well as their travel routes. A security ring will be thrown around Raisina Hill, on which Rashtrapati Bhavan stands. A total of 15 teams have been working together for the big event. The security agencies are on high alert, especially in the wake of the terror attack on the Indian consulate in Afghanistan's Herat province Friday morning. Believe it or not, as soon as the BJP sent invites to Pakistan and Afghanistan, there was a demand that their government refused to accept it. Terror outfits in the neighboring countries have openly expressed their unhappiness over their leaders visiting India. Sources say that the ISI and the Pakistan military have warned Nawaz Sharif to stay away from visiting India. But now it's official that he is visiting India despite the risks. Namo to get more security after swearing in. It is a known fact that Narendra Modi has been given Z+ security at the moment. However, this security will be upgraded the minute he swears in as the Prime Minister. The Special Protection Guard will double up his security as he becomes the Prime Minister of India. Post 6 p.m. on Monday, Narendra Modi will get another layer of security around him. Special Protection Guard will provide security to Narendra Modi and his family. His mother Hiraba and wife Jasodaben will automatically be undercover as Modi takes on the country's top post. As of now, the SPG is providing security to just 5 people in the nation. Dr. Manmohan Singh, Sonia, Rahul and Priyanka Gandhi from the Congress and Atal Bihari Vajpayee are the only people in the country with such high levels of security. This means that Narendra Modi will have 12 additional cars as security when he travels. The first car will be an escort car fitted with bullet jammers. This means that escort car will detect any bombs in its vicinity. Narendra Modi will be travelling in bulletproof BMWs and nobody apart from the SPG will know which car Modi is seated in. The SPG specially designs its car to guard its guest. In addition to the 12 cars provided by the SPG, there will be many other cars from various security agencies that will surround Modi's car. The local police will be deployed in routes where Modi's entourage will travel. The SPG will decide on the routes beforehand and will have the men and local police scrutinize the routes to avoid any untoward incidents. For long, Narendra Modi has been under the radar of terror outfits in India and abroad. Every other terror accused is revealed about his organization's plan to kill Narendra Modi. The 2002 riots in Gujarat seem to be the only reason behind terrorist aggression against Modi. It has been revealed that Simi planned to kill Narendra Modi with the help of Indian Mujahideen. Interestingly, Pakistan's ISI was said to be the mastermind behind the plan. It is being said that the ISI officials used Simi and Indian Mujahideen to finish off Narendra Modi. The Patna blasts were another attempt to stop him from taking on the country's top post. With all these, there are no doubts that the security agencies will be on their toes on the big day. But will they even go off smoothly as planned? Well, we hope it does. A News 9 report.
Well, undoubtedly foolproof security for the swearing-in ceremony today at the Rashtrapati Bhavan. So do tell us, what are your expectations from the Modi government? You can call us at 08022360304 and let us know, what do you want from the Modi government? There are very high expectations, of course, from each one of us. So what are your expectations in particular? You can call in. You can also SMS us your response. Type News 9 followed by your name and message and send it in to us at 54999 We will, of course, keep airing your comments and also take in your calls. So do call in and tell us, what are your expectations from Modi's government?
That's right, and it's not only a big day for Narendra Modi or for that matter the Bharatiya Janata Party, it is a big day for the entire country. For the first time after 1984 did we see one single party get clear majority, and today Narendra Modi, the one man's name who's the BJP chanted all through the election campaigning and emerged victorious on the 16th of May, will be swearing in as the Prime Minister of the country. In
probably 1.5 hours from now, Modi will be swearing in as the Prime Minister of India. Huge expectations from the Modi government, of course, and for the last many days, Narendra Modi as well as his key aides have been meeting several people and discussing what is the best options at hand for them. What will their cabinet look like? It's one of the questions that is doing the rounds today and probably will be answered in some time from now. But to discuss the same, we have a panel of esteemed guests with us here. First up, we have Mr. Jay Crasta, who is the former president of the FKCCI. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Crasta. Second, of course, we have Mr. I.S. Prasad, who is the chairman of the Central Taxes, Banking and Finance and the Economic Affairs Committee. And also, of course, we have Professor Prithvi Datta, who is joining us live from Mysore. He is, of course, a very well-known political analyst. Professor Datta, I'm going to come to you first. Your expectations from the cabinet that will be formed.
Well, the composition of the cabinet doesn't seem any surprising. It doesn't hold many surprises. But insofar as the expectations are concerned, they're massive. We have been discussing this since the elections non-stop. Mainly the policy paralysis which had plagued the last 3 years of UPA administration is the first target that Modi government will have to address. Right? That will be their core agenda in order to ensure that something is happening at the government level. The bureaucrats have been very afraid of taking decisions. They haven't been active at all. So just to get the government functioning, moving in some direction, the nature of the direction will have to become clear in the next few in the coming months, and then we will get a clear sense of where Modi will want to take this country forward.
Now, Professor Datta, Narendra Modi is always known as someone who wants to sail a tight ship. He does not want too many people. He wants his close aides. He wants it to be a very tight cabinet so that the governance is well under his control. But do you think that in the process of forming such a cabinet in a union level, he will be leaving behind not only senior leaders, for example, like M.M. Joshi, but also states like Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan and Gujarat as well, which has given him a clear mandate in the elections?
I think there is a shift in philosophy that Modi wants to bring in terms of governance is concerned. There's a new management style which is to consolidate ministries which have related areas. For example, everything related to transport could be brought under one cabinet minister who will have greater responsibilities, but that will also ensure, at least in the short to medium term, some more efficiencies being gained, right, by making the ministries more engaged, and you have a number of junior ministers who will be serving under this cabinet minister. So there is a shift in the governance philosophy that Modi wants to bring. That's one part of it. The representation to the states, that you can always, if there is any imbalance, that you can always address. I think first what Modi would want to try is to see if there is a possibility to bring in a leaner, meaner, more efficient style of governance, and that has to do with management and bringing efficiencies in governance.
That's right. Mr. Krasa, do you think that Narendra Modi will be successful in replicating that tight ship that we saw in Gujarat on a union level? Do you think that will happen?
100%.
100%.
100%. Because the way he has moved, the way he has done, and the way he had aimed, being a 15th Prime Minister in the 16th Lok Sabha, after Vajpayee government in 2009 to 2004, we have seen what happened as per Vajpayee government because there was no majority. Although he was a very superb leader of our country who has been delivered, but he could not deliver what he wanted to do because there was no majority.
Right.
Whereas taking a clue from the Vajpayee government, Narendra Modi has worked with the 12 years of service, what he has rendered to the Gujarat people, he has done from the grassroots level, like what you say, chai wala to parliament. So that means he has really done from the childhood as a dedicated servant of any party. So that means he has not done it just for heck of it. That means he has come out as a dedication.
But one would say that there is a lot of difference between a state functioning and a union government. So do you think that there will be fair share of challenges that he will face while making the transition from a chief minister to a prime minister?
No, if you take that question, no prime ministers again re-elected again except Nehru and Indira Gandhi. So it is a glamour. It is not the leadership. It was the glamour, whereas here is not the glamour. With the glamour, there is a leader.
But along the same lines, if we're going to talk about state versus union, yes, there are a lot of expectations from him. It's expected that he will keep in mind the needs of every ministry and look at who is the apt leader. But at the same time, he's also got a lot of political aspects to keep in mind, be it allies or anything else. So keeping all that in mind, do you think he'll be able to fulfill everyone's needs?
100%. Take, for example, the way he has started after he has won the majority of election, how he has moved. He was not in a hurry to swear in. He has taken almost about 10 days now. In 10 days, he has prepared a ground. What kind of preparation is done?
And it was back-to-back meetings.
Absolutely. He is now planning to integrate the ministry who are connected each other. Who has done that? Nobody has done that. And calling all the SAARC country leaders, anybody has done so far? No. That means he wants to function differently, not like any other. He has taken a clue from Vajpayee, no doubt about it, but he wants to really function differently. What differently? Probably what he is aiming for is the trade industry to grow, where our GDP growth has gone down as low as 1.8% of GDP. Country cannot bear this.
He's spoken about it.
Absolutely. And the industrial production, IIP, has gone down minus 2.2%. If there is no manufacturing activity growth, where are the employment generation takes place? Unless and until you increase your manufacturing sector, where employment takes place, where that was a funda created by NDA 1 and NDA 2, where they could not do it.
That's right. Well, Mr. Prasad, the inviting SAARC nations, as Mr.